So a few weeks ago, Jose and I played a ton of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I think between the two of us, it was probably 19 hours. I only got to play it for one day. Unfortunately, I had to take care of some other business, but Jose played for 2 days. If you haven't seen it yet, he put up an amazing video preview and a full written preview on IGN right now that is kind of full hands-on impressions, but as two Metal Gear fans, we just kind of wanted to talk about our experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jose, initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts is I did not think the open world aspect would affect this game on the level that it does. You take everything that Metal Gear has done up to Peace Walker, you take base building, you take a really great stealth sandbox, but one that was kind of confined to closed spaces. Even though like maps in Metal Gear Solid 4 got really big, it was still very self-contained. You take that and you blow it up on this huge scale where you have multiple entry points into bases, where you have different ways to create distractions, gadgets that really, really fool with the enemies and the AI. I mean, it comes together so well in a way that like when I first saw the whole pause mechanic when you get spotted, how you have a few seconds to take out a target, my initial reaction was—
Which is optional, by the way.
Which is optional, that's right.
Off.
You can turn that off, but my first reaction was, wow, I don't know if I like this, it makes it seem too easy. You need that.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
need it to some
there
degree.
will be those of you out there, I'm sure, who play without it, you know, props to you, you're
salute.
insane.
Straight, right hand.
Yeah, anyway, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. For me, I think it's the episodic structure is really interesting, because you have these giant open maps, right? I mean, huge. Like, I didn't get out of Afghanistan, but that map is I mean, a magnitude beyond what we saw in Ground Zeroes. And it takes kind of that episodic structure of Peace Walker and puts you at different points in that map, you know, to do kind of self-contained missions, but you're never actually just contained to that area.
No.
Even though it's episodic, you still can get out of that, and it doesn't always pull you out of the map too, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
The other thing that I loved is that, I mean, as far as Metal Gear is concerned, Big Boss's saga has always to me been like the most interesting. I love Snake Eater, I love Peace Walker, and as a Metal Gear fan, some of the stuff that I saw in my time with this, like, I cannot wait to see where the story goes.
Yeah.
And it's bonkers, it's crazy, right? It's Kojima, I mean, it's goofy.
Yeah, but not goofy.
Goofy in a great way.
Goofy in a great way, and not in the way that, you know, like Metal Gear Solid 4 is a fantastic game, but narratively, a lot of that story went off a cliff between 2 and 4, to be fair. Whereas 3 kind of brought it back to the 60s, brought it back to more about, you know, stealth and being a bit more, taking a different approach.
And despite being goofy, it is still pretty smart.
Absolutely, yeah. And it ultimately comes down to, too, that talking about side ops and main ops, I love how they weave back and forth. Yeah. You can wander out of a main op and completely abandon an objective if you feel like it. And you're not penalized for that. It's just like, well, you gave up on this for now. But then you can roam around the open world in side ops and complete side objectives. One of them for me was early on, they need you to find a Russian translator, because when you interrogate soldiers, none of them, you have no one on the team who can translate what's happening or what they're telling you. And the intel you get from them is actually really valuable, because they're very quick to give up the details on, well, so-and-so is over here, or we keep the resources over there.
And then also, when you're walking around the maps, the soldiers that were previously speaking Russian, all that dialogue is now translated.
Yes.
Apparently there are like a bunch of different languages. You have to find different translators depending on which language all the NPCs are speaking. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, speaking of crazy and just like, there were so many crazy things that we did in those 19 hours.
Yeah.
What is like one event that totally sticks out for you as just either crazy or just amazing?
So I was on this one mission where I was specifically trying to find a captured prisoner. And I was, you know, sort of quietly going through the installation room by room, trying to locate him. And at the same time, I planted a C4 on the other side of the base, thinking, okay, if anything goes down, I'll just blow this to distract a lot of people. And it turns out I also picked a really good target, and it was an anti-aircraft radar. So it actually made sense as a really good target, because when everything hit the fan, I blew this thing up, and now I can call in my chopper. So while I'm still going room by room trying to find this prisoner, I have my chopper outside just taking down everything that's happening, like mowing things down. And then I'm able to meet up with that chopper and immediately airlift out the minute I found the prisoner.
It's like those cinematic moments that you see in the trailers and the demo footage they've released. They look scripted, right? But they're not. You're just kind of doing this stuff throughout missions.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What was the coolest thing you definitely saw?
I loved one of the story missions where, I mean, and we can't unfortunately tell you much about the story, but it's set in Afghanistan, and there's this huge, like, cave complex in the back of one of the mountains, and it's there. You can get to it outside of this mission, but I didn't until I got to this mission. And you're told to get intel on where you can find a weapon, and you get there, and it's kind of like like Raiders of the Lost Ark type stuff, right? You know, you're out there in the desert, and all the bad guys have a hostage, and you gotta find the hostage in order to figure out where the thing is, and then you're sneaking through these caves, and it gets to an actual story beat at the end that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I also like in that mission particularly, there was a sandstorm. It was the first time a sandstorm actually hit while I was playing.
Yep.
And so under the cover of that sandstorm, I was able to attach C4s to all the enemy vehicles and then just wander off and hide. So again, once I got spotted, I'm just like, oh, you guys are gonna try and shoot at me? Not anymore, and then have to deal with the soldiers themselves. I just love that sort of, it's so dynamic, how you can sort of approach everything, how you can plan for it, how it makes sense to plan for everything. Like you wanna take out the binoculars and look at things and make sure you're labeling targets and identifying, okay, this is gonna be a problem later, I need to be aware of where this is.
So, before we're done, what's your favorite like wacky Kojima-ism that you saw in your time with it?
The 80s soundtrack that's in this game. So it turns
so
out
good.
there are boomboxes spread out through the world, and I mean this is sort of a period piece, right? I mean it takes place in roughly
84.
It's 84.
Yep.
And so I was wandering through a base.
Before Metal Gear.
Yeah, and heard the song "She's a Man Eater" blaring over a radio, and I'm just like, what? But you can also then find that boombox, take the tape, and then set that as the entrance music for your helicopter when it comes to get you.
It's so
like,
nuts. I mean,
what?
I'm not sure which of the licensed songs will actually be in the final version. I'm sure there may be some licensing issues, but some of the stuff we heard, I mean, like Kim Wilde's "Kids in America," Joy Division. There was definitely Level Tear Us Apart in there. I mean, just the possibilities are endless, and it's hysterical just to be Big Boss sneaking around or flying into a mission with some 80s pop tunes rocking.
Yeah, the personal touch that gives you, right? Because it's not just about how you engage objectives, but even just how you want to dress things up and
fun.
sort of be fun with it.
And I can see how like tonally that might turn some people off, but I mean, if you're a fan of the Metal Gear series, I think those little bits of kind of winks and nods to pop culture and movies and kind of more than just the serious themes of war and politics the games explore.
Yeah.
I love that they try to have fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it is okay for it to be a serious story about these soldiers, and hopefully, we don't know, we can't share a lot of details there, but we didn't get a ton of intel on that, and whatever we did find out, we can't talk about. But I do hope that Kojima finds an elegant way to sort of wrap up this series, and at the same time, potentially walk away from this series, because this could be it. This could be the one.
It's his last one as far as we know.
Yeah.
There's still a bunch more for them to show. I mean, they haven't shown much of MGO, the online component.
That's right.
I'm sure, we might get a few more story beats before reviews this fall. We don't know when we're reviewing the game. The game comes out on September 1st. Jose and I obviously cannot wait to play more.
Absolutely.
Any final words?
No, just be excited. Like everything that you want Metal Gear Solid 5 to be, so far what we saw, it seems to be. It is the marriage of Metal Gear Solid 3 and Peace Walker, and it is, so far, it seems to be one of the best games.
Yeah, I can't wait. For everything Metal Gear Solid 5, keep it locked to IGN.